Have you ever wondered what people are willing to sacrifice to maintain their youthfulness and seemingly perfect beauty? In Hollywood, where the spotlight never fades and youth is considered a precious asset, the pressure to be perfect can be suffocating, even obsessive. One small change, then another, and before you know it, the pursuit of beauty is no longer a choice, but a never-ending race. Behind those flawless faces are rarely told stories, anxieties, risky decisions, and sometimes an irreversible price to pay. Some lose their careers, others gradually lose themselves. In today's video, we'll explore the hidden side behind perfect beauty, where the line between confidence and self-doubt becomes thinner than ever, and delve into stories that will make you wonder, does being more beautiful truly equate to being happier? Some people are born to be remembered in history, and others, against their will, become the focus of debates about beauty and age. Cayetana Fitz-James Stewart, Duchess of Alba, was more than just an aristocrat. She embodied power, heritage, and centuries-old luxury in Spain. With over 40 titles, magnificent palaces, and a priceless art collection, she seemed to have it all. Except one thing no one can hold back: time. In the public eye, she was always striking, distinctive, and full of personality. But like anyone else, the signs of aging gradually appeared over the years. Initially, the changes were subtle adjustments, a way of preserving her familiar image. But over time, these interventions accumulated: facelifts, injections, gradually transforming the once soft and delicate face of the aristocrat. Her story is even more complex. A rare medical condition, Melkerson-Rosenthal syndrome, also contributed to the swelling and changes in her face. At that point, the line between cosmetic and pathological changes became blurred. The public looked on, but not everyone understood the bigger picture. The scrutiny and gossip grew, but one thing about her never changed: her independence and determination to live life on her own terms. At 85, when many chose peace, Cayetana Fitz-James Stewart surprised the public by marrying a much younger man, not to prove anything, but simply to live true to herself. She left this world in 2014, leaving behind not just titles or wealth, but a profound story about beauty, age, and personal freedom. Because ultimately, whether you're a star, a legend, or a duchess, time will touch everyone. And what matters isn't how hard you tried to preserve your youth, but how true you were to yourself. Born into a family whose name has become legendary, sometimes means living a lifetime in the shadow of others. LaToya Jackson grew up in the spotlight of the Jackson family, where talent was evident, but comparisons never ceased. Especially when her brother Michael Jackson rose to global icon status that was almost unmatched. In the 1980s, LaToya strived to forge her own path. She sang, acted, and appeared in public, hoping to be seen as an independent individual, not just Michael Jackson's sister. Her album, My Special Love, brought her considerable success, enough to establish her place in the entertainment industry. But in Hollywood, talent alone is sometimes not enough. The pressure to maintain a perfect image and appearance gradually crept in, and then she embarked on a path familiar to many in the entertainment industry, changing her appearance, starting with her nose. Initially, it was just small adjustments, but over time, the changes continued. Each time, it might have stemmed from a desire for self-improvement, for more confidence. But overall, her face gradually transformed, becoming a different version of herself. The public began to notice, then to compare. Old stories resurfaced, but this time, not just about her career, but also about her appearance. People didn't just see LaToya, but also searched for the shadow of Michael Jackson in every feature. And so, another story began to be written, not entirely by her, but by the gaze of the outside world. The media discussed the change, the public asked questions, and over time, her experiences, efforts, and choices were overshadowed by a familiar question. How much has she changed? Over the years, LaToya began to break free from that cycle. She no longer tried to explain every change, but chose to tell her story in a different way, more authentic, calmer, and more at ease. Now, she appears less often, more quietly, but perhaps closer to her true self than ever before. Because sometimes the hardest thing isn't changing to become perfect, but maintaining your identity in a world that constantly wants you to be someone else. There are people whose mere presence is enough to brighten the space around them. Goldie Hawn is one of them. For over half a century, she has been not only a movie star, but also an icon of joy, warmth, and vibrant charm. Her bright smile, sparkling eyes, and positive energy have illuminated Hollywood in a unique way. But even the most natural sources of light cannot escape the passage of time. As the years go by, along with the increasing pressure to maintain youthfulness in the entertainment industry, the need to maintain one's image becomes more apparent. For Goldie Hawn, like many other stars, cosmetic choices have gradually emerged. Some may be publicly shared, while others remain mere speculation. Every change in her appearance sparks public discussion. Is it Botox, fillers, or simply a combination of lighting, makeup, and the natural marks of aging? But perhaps the important thing isn't finding the answer. Unlike many other stories, Goldie Hawn's beauty has never been solely about her facial features. It lies in how she evokes emotion, making viewers feel at ease, joyful, and connected. No matter how her appearance changes, that light is always present. Off-screen, she chooses a slower pace of life, dedicating time to her family, her longtime partner Kurt Russell, her daughter Kate Hudson, and meaningful projects like the Mind Up Foundation, which focuses on mental health for young people. Goldie Hawn's story isn't about fighting against time, but about learning to live in harmony with it. Because, after all, there are values that don't need to be preserved at all costs, because they never truly disappeared. There are those who dedicate their lives to celebrating beauty. And there are those, like Linda Evangelista, who became its icon for an entire generation. Linda, a name that captivated every runway in the 90s with her striking features and almost limitless ability to transform, was not just a supermodel, but a benchmark the world aspired to. Every step, every frame of hers helped redefine the concept of beauty. Yet, this woman who once stood at the pinnacle became a victim of the very perfection she once represented. A seemingly simple choice, a non-surgical beauty treatment advertised as safe, quick, and low risk, silently altered her body in ways no one could have foreseen. Not slimmer, but disfigured. Not more confident, but utterly devastated. The rare condition known as paradoxical fat hyperplasia transformed the promise of perfection into a difficult journey. For the first time, the woman who had once been completely in control of her image in front of the camera found it difficult to confront herself. Linda gradually withdrew, not just from the spotlight, but almost from public attention. But when she returned, that image was no longer simply a beauty icon. It became a powerful voice, a reminder, and a perspective rarely discussed within the beauty industry. Because sometimes the price of being more beautiful isn't just about the cost. It can touch you from within. There are voices that, simply by their sound, are enough to awaken an entire era in memory. Kenny Rogers was more than just a singer. He was an icon connected to millions, his warm, emotional voice telling life stories through hits like The Gambler and Islands in the Stream. Each of his songs is where listeners find empathy, experience, and profound reflections on life. But time, something no one can escape, gradually leaves its mark on the artist's face. In a world where stage lights are increasingly sharp, every wrinkle visible on high-resolution screens, the pressure to maintain a youthful appearance becomes invisible yet weighty. Kenny Rogers, an icon of sincerity and composure, is no exception. He didn't seek drastic changes, just a few minor adjustments. A facelift, an eyelid lift. Choices that seemed simple, even reasonable. But sometimes, those small changes inadvertently diminish what matters most. When the public looks at him, they still recognize Kenny Rogers. But the familiar feeling seems incomplete. Even he himself once shared that he felt alienated from his reflection in the mirror, frankly admitting it was a decision he regretted. However, his story doesn't end with regret, because his voice, the thing that touches people's hearts, remains intact. He continues to stand on stage, telling stories, connecting with audiences, just as he did for decades. When he left this world in 2020, at the age of 81, what remains is not debate about his appearance, but a musical legacy that endures over time. Because after all, the true value of a person lies not in their outward appearance, but in the emotions and memories they leave behind in the hearts of others. Some decisions are made in minutes, but their consequences last a lifetime. Lisa Rinna didn't start out wanting to be a controversial icon. In her early 20s, what she was looking for was simple: to feel more confident in herself. Amidst the dazzling lights of Hollywood, where beauty standards are almost perfect, she believed that even a small change could make a big difference. In 1986, she made the decision to inject silicone into her lips to create a unique and unmistakable signature. For years, that choice seemed right. Her full lips became her trademark. Her smile was everywhere, on the red carpet, on television, and etched into the public mind. But the human body isn't something that can be modified indefinitely without limits. Over time, the silicone began to backfire. Her lips, once her pride and joy, gradually became stiff, unnatural, and even uncomfortable. What once brought her confidence now became a silent burden she faced every day. Nearly 25 years later, she was forced to intervene to correct the problem, removing the affected parts. But once the changes were made, it wasn't always possible to return to the original state. And the story didn't end there. Like many in the entertainment industry, she continued to experiment with other methods, fillers, Botox, step by step, little by little, aiming for a more perfect version. But it was at that point that the public began to notice the difference. Her expressions were no longer natural, her face gradually becoming unfamiliar. The pressure now came not only from the mirror, but also from millions of eyes and comments out there. What makes Lisa Rinna's story special is her honesty. Without hiding or avoiding the issue, she admits that not every beauty decision was the right one. There are things she would have chosen differently if she could go back. Today, she is pursuing a different path, more natural, more authentic. Her story isn't just about beauty, but also a reminder of the price to pay when trying to become the version society expects. Because sometimes the hardest thing isn't changing yourself, but learning to accept yourself with all that you are. There are stars who don't need to try to shine, because their natural selves are already a brilliant source of light. Joanna Van Ark is one such person. During the golden age of American television, she left a lasting impression with her role in Knots Landing, where her delicate beauty, expressive eyes, and elegant demeanor became a role model for an entire generation. But time, like a silent stream, began to tell a different story. In an industry where cameras are increasingly sharp, where every small detail is exaggerated, natural beauty, once an advantage, gradually became a burden. And like many others, she started with a small change, a nose job, a subtle, almost imperceptible alteration. But sometimes one change opens the door to further ones. Over the years, other interventions gradually appeared: facelifts, eyelid surgery, rejuvenation treatments. Each step was aimed at preserving the familiar image that audiences once loved. However, paradoxically, these very efforts blurred the unique qualities that had once made her stand out. Her face remained familiar, but her emotions seemed to have changed. Her smile was still there, but its warmth had gradually become different. As television entered the HD era, public scrutiny became more demanding than ever. People no longer focused solely on talent or roles, but began to examine every detail of her face. Hollywood gradually revealed an unacceptable truth. As youth fades, even legends can be re-evaluated, not for what they contributed, but for how they appear now. Joan van Ark never spoke much about her choices, but that very silence clearly reflected the pressure many older artists face. Because sometimes, what people fear isn't getting old. It's the feeling of having to change themselves, just so they won't be forgotten. Some people try to hide the changes, and others turn those changes into an unmistakable signature. Dolly Parton is one of them. For over half a century, she has not only been a legendary country singer, but also a cultural icon with a distinctive image. Her vibrant blonde hair, striking makeup, and a style that seems almost otherworldly, as if she stepped out of a very special world. But what makes Dolly different isn't just her appearance. It's how she perceives and confronts it. While many stars choose to avoid or remain silent about cosmetic procedures, Dolly is frank, even humorous about it. She doesn't hide it. What's sagging? I'll fix it. A witty and truthful statement, but one that clearly reflects her philosophy of life. Not fighting against time, but actively deciding how to change with it. For Dolly, nose jobs, eyelid surgery, facelifts, and Botox weren't signs of insecurity, but rather conscious choices. She built her own image, not to be like anyone else, but to become the most distinct version of Dolly. And over the years, these changes haven't diminished her identity. On the contrary, they've made her more recognizable than ever. But Dolly Parton's story isn't just about appearance. Behind her striking looks is a talented and influential woman, artist, businesswoman, and philanthropist. From music to educational projects, she has touched millions of lives in a way deeper than any image could ever convey. Today, in her 70s, Dolly continues to create, perform, and inspire. Her story isn't about chasing beauty to cling to youth, but about understanding herself and daring to show her true self to the world. Because sometimes, confidence doesn't come from how natural you look, but from living fully as yourself. If this video made you think, please leave a comment and share your perspective. In your opinion, where does the line lie between self-improvement and losing oneself? Does true beauty originate from within each person? Don't forget to like if you found this content meaningful, and subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the profound stories behind the glamour of celebrities. See you in the next video, where we'll not only look at appearances, but also gain a deeper understanding of the stories, choices, and true people behind them.